DJ, play Black Roses. Like when I go to karaoke, and then I can just like write about everything that's happening. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. You're like a natural stenographer.
I see. I don't even know if that's true because a lot of it is about myself, and I'm like,
okay, you're the worst stenographer.
Exactly.
I was hearing this testimony, and I don't know, the dude up there was a little bit. He sounded like a bullshitter.
Yeah, it's like you're reading about a court case, and like, why does this person keep talking about the reg? But yeah, part of the reason why we're talking about our past is because today we're talking about True Romance, not the movie. We're talking about the album by Charli XCX that came out in 2013.
The past.
11 years before Brat. Because, we don't talk just about the shiny new thing here at Dubweather. We like to excavate the past.
It's also been a very eventful decade, I think, for the both of us. The last 10 years, 11 years, whatever, Time is an illusion. And I think True Romance, as someone who has effectively no history with, I did realize that I've heard Black Roses before, but I only really knew Charli XCX as a feature artist or as one of these like pop focused person that like writes music for other people. But you have some history there.
Yeah. So Charli, I would say, I think I got into this album the year after it came out in 2014 because I saw that many of my Twitter friends like put it on their like best albums of the year list for 2013. Like that and Sky Ferreira's Nighttime My Time.
Who is someone I have no information on. And will refuse to learn anything.
Yeah, well, I think Sky Ferreira and Charli XCX were kind of seen as like contemporaries. They both put out albums that were kind of critically acclaimed by groups like Pitchfork and other, Stereo Gum, which AP and I mentioned pre-podcast about something completely unrelated.
I'm more of a Land guy. Talk to me when Land Ferreira swings by.
Of course. Yeah, I mean... So Sky has not put out any albums since 2013, and I think Nighttime My Time has kind of gotten this reputation, not the Taylor Swift album, as like, this album that has like stood the test of time of the last 10 years, partially because everyone has been waiting for the next Sky Ferreira album, and we just have never gotten it. And Sky has also like, you can tell that she's like a really depressed, anxious person because like, she's done concerts where you can tell that she's beating herself up about every minor thing that goes wrong. And
she's like the anti-Chicken Little because Sky is never dropping.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah,
Sky, why am I a dad right now?
You're definitely...
Why did I just become a Midwestern father?
Yeah. But yeah, Sky is like such a perfectionist, which I think is a big reason why we haven't gotten more music from her. But meanwhile, Charli has put out a ton of music in the last 10 years. And I think that because of that, True Romance, I think, isn't seen as maybe like important of an album as like Sky Ferreira's album. But I think like when they came out, they were kind of put like on the same level. And I think that, Charli has put out better albums since True Romance, but I am a True Romance defender. It was the first Charli album that I really got into, and for a long time, and this is something that some Charli super fans would roast me for a long time, it was the only Charli album I liked the only album I really liked until 2020, when she put out her Pandemic album. And there are definitely, like, I liked songs of hers, post 2013, pre 2020, but there wasn't like an album that like really worked all the way through for me. And I think that's like the key, is that 10 years ago I was such an albums girl. I was not a singles girl. And yeah, I think that like there's other experiences I had that I think kind of entrenched me in my True Romance beliefs. But I think that that's why it's such like an important album for me, is that like for a long time, this was the only Charli album that I just had on repeat.
It's interesting as like I think I'm coming at this from a different angle here.
Absolutely.
Maybe not a 180 here. Maybe more of a 140, maybe 130, 135. Let's say 135. Let's say 365. And because I this is the first time I really like sat down to enjoy this album. And I have subsequently like heard it maybe about 7 more times. So in total, maybe I've heard this album, I think 8 times. And every single time I hear it, I pick up more things. I think about this differently. And as someone who didn't have that history and frankly doesn't really connect with the themes or the lyrics, I'm definitely sitting in a different seat than you are.
And I think that's what will make this conversation interesting is that we're kind of on 2 different ends of the spectrum on this album. You know, AP, spoiler alert, he does like the songs on this album, save for some of the lyricism.
But don't take her word for it.
But like, I'm someone who's like lived with this album for so long, but I also think that like AP is kind of trying to connect to this album in a different way than I ever have, where for me the lyrics have never been the most important part of this album, because I would like press play, the album would be on for the next 45 minutes and I wouldn't think too much about the lyrics. And I think part of that is because my relationship with how I engage with music has changed a lot in the last 10 years, where post HRT I definitely cared more about the lyrics. You know, when the Olivia Rodrigo album came out, which is one of the first things that AP and I bonded over, like those lyrics spoke to me like on like a really deep level, where I'm like, this is exactly how I feel, all of my emotions, all my hormones. Charli XCX, it wasn't the same. Like I don't have like a strong emotional attachment to like any like one lyric in this album. It's more like, for me, it's pretty much bangers. Like I love just like the soundscapes that she creates, and that's kind of like what I think about them.
So let's maybe put something. Let's put ourselves on the timeline here. 2013, 2014. What was Marcy and AP? What were they doing? Let's start with you.
So this is gonna date me a bit, but you know what? I am starting to get to the point where I don't care as much about like trying to hide my age. So I'll say I was in college 2013, 2014. And I, you know, it was close to the end of my time in college. And a lot of the time I was just watching TV until 4 a.m. because that's what I enjoyed doing, you know?
Till 4?
4 a.m.
And when would you wake up?
Well, I would usually have like I sometimes have a morning class. Otherwise I would like sleep until noon. But I would, if I have a morning class, I would go in the morning class and then immediately go back to my room and sleep.
You're not a natural stenographer. You're a natural coder.
I definitely was then. I will say I don't have those same sleeping habits now. Like the only time I ever stay up until 4 a.m. is like if I get high and then like I just can't sleep afterwards, which did happen one night in New York. But
got to.
Yeah.
So, okay. 2014, Marcy, just hanging out, watching TV show after TV show. Yeah. Columbo, Breaking Bad, The Good Cake Wife. Boss.
I was not into reality TV yet, and I didn't watch Columbo until later, fact-checking AP. But yeah, you know, it was a lot of...
She's giving me 2 Pinocchios right now.
I watched, you know, a lot of what they call prestige TV, a lot of network TV. That was when Netflix was kind of big, starting to get big. So Orange is the New Black, Enlightened. That was probably my favorite show of 2013. Real Ones Know. And yeah, that
Person of Interest.
Person of Interest. Yeah, I was watching some of. I think I watched more of
that
post college. I think like I didn't start watching Person of Interest right away, and then I caught up with the DVDs in time to like start watching maybe season 3 or 4 live. But yeah.
And what was mostly you were like emotionally very mature in a good spot. You were effectively the let's just say the Jonathan Banks of of emotional stability, right?
It's hard to like say because I was mostly just focused on TV and like doing my homework and like going to class and stuff. So like not that interesting of a life. I did not party. I did not drink until I was 22. And so yeah, like there's definitely different eras of my life where I feel like the Marcy is very different, and like it's very easy to just group everything pre-HRT into one bucket and everything post into another. But I don't think that actually paints the most descriptive story. But yeah, like I wasn't doing I wasn't doing much socializing until my last semester of college when I joined a board game club, and we played Smash Brothers and Mafia and Avalon and all that kind of stuff.
You see, I think there's a real departure here, because I was definitely like a moody teenager and a moody young adult. And the difference is I was socializing like I was socializing like meatloaf on amphetamines. I was running around. It was my first year of college in 2014. It was my first fall semester. So yeah, I was running all over the place, meeting people, hanging out, partying, chillaxing, and maybe in fact the thing that I wasn't doing was watching TV.
Yeah,
I was watching Game of Thrones back then, but I don't talk about that.
Yeah. I think I didn't really become an extrovert until like 2021, which it makes sense. That's like in that way the paradigm shifts. I think it lives up to its name in the sense that like I was definitely more introverted back then. Although maybe like some people now that we're like excavating my past, maybe we could be like, well, I had a friend group in high school when we were all nerds, and I could be a little bit more extrovert around them. But yeah, it's like back in high school, it was like all the cliques, and like you just kind of talk with your cliques and make calculator games and stuff. But yeah, it is interesting that like from what I hear, the AP that I see now is very similar to the AP in 2014 because you are a social butterfly now.
Internally different. Different.
You got through some character development.
Yeah. I carry some emotional scars.
Yeah, AP has learned to stop being a misogynist at least 75%.
Yeah. It's a process, okay? You learn things, all right? So, in 2014, sonically, what were you into?
So I think we're kind of I think that like there's kind of a shift happening because in 2013 I'm getting more into churches. I'm getting more into Haim. And previously I was into let's go back to high school and trace towards 2014. High school was like
REM.
REM, yes. U2, Beatles, Radiohead, Guster, Coldplay. And then college, I started listening to more indie rock, more Animal Collective, more Grizzly Bear, that kind of thing. But I think like 2013, 2014, I'm starting to get into some more female indie pop, like I said, with churches and Haim. So I think that you're starting to see a shift happen. And then like as time goes on, I get, eventually I'll get into Boy Genius and then start to get into more queer music. So right now
she's all Muna.
Yeah, exactly. Like right. So basically, 2014, we're starting to get into the heterosexual female music.
Okay, all right. Oh, boo. Because I boo not from a place of hate, but from a place of love. You see, I was a feminist back then, and so I was listening to Haim and churches as well. I was listening to like Saint Vincent. I love Saint Vincent.
Yeah, Saint Vincent. I feel like so. Okay, since we're talking about Saint Vincent, my question to you is: have you ever had a falling out with Saint Vincent? Because I kind of did with Daddy's Home. And that,
how could I? I said I'm a feminist. I support all women. She
support...
dated Kristen Stewart for like a bit. How can I hate her?
Yeah, but
she's living my dream.
She, you could say that she was part of the reason why Sleater-Kinney went from 3 to 2. But
okay, well, I like messy bitches. Sorry.
Yeah, you're such a feminist that you like even mid albums made by women.
Yeah, it's called being a radical feminist. Okay.
Yeah, I got into St. Vincent, I think, more after college, so like maybe 2015. The self-titled album is the album that like really got me into her.
Which incredible album.
Yes.
And also along with that, I was listening to some other things. But I was into the indie stuff before college. One of them being one of my favorite bands, Tennis. But this is all to say that like 2014 me should have loved a True Romance. Should have been into True Romance. But it just never manifested in my life.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, is that both True Romance and Nighttime My Time were kind of word of mouth like hits. I don't even think hits is the right word. Word of mouth successes, I guess. And it makes sense that like if they don't cross your path, then you just don't get the experience. When you compare that to Brat, where like it's been pretty unavoidable. Like, the music's been unavoidable. People calling things Brat has been unavoidable.
The color green
exactly
has been unavoidable.
People calling Brat Summer over has been unavoidable, which we even talked about in our previous pod when we talked about like Kamala, the Kamala tweet, but then I defended it and I was like, well, the guests with Billie Eilish revived it. And now we're at the point where Charli has officially said that Brat Summer is over. And you sent me a text today about Obama calling himself Brat. So that kind of shows you where we are with Brat right now.
It's definitely, it's the moment.
Yeah. And I think that like as we're kind of entering the post-Brat Summer. Well, I think the thing about it is that the Sweat Tour is about to happen. She's going to be touring with Troye Sivan.
Yeah.
I looked up the tickets today. They're
expensive.
Not cheap. Yeah.
I've also done that.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking about buying tickets, but I think that my regs will need to naturally land there, which translation basically just means it'll probably happen.
Wow, you're going to buy 2 tickets. Wow.
Yeah, probably me and Nomi.
And so I personally don't want to like look. I'm no augur. I'm no superstitious farmer looking at the wind vane trying to figure out when Brat Summer's over. All I know is that it's definitely reached a saturation. In specifically the online world, because one of the things that I've done over the last however many days I've been researching and listening and then vibing Charli XCX is that she is an internet girly.
Yes. Definitely.
From the very beginning.
Yeah, she had her Myspace days.
Myspace, Tumblr, Twitter.
Yeah, like it was fun to read about how she, like, the first album she made, she like basically completely disavows now. And like she was playing at raves when she was like 14 years old. And like her parents were like, yeah, that rocks.
Her parents would accompany her.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is nice. Supportive.
Yeah, it is interesting because like I saw Charli live at Pitchfork in 2019. And this was, this is basically in the period where it's the furthest away you get from True Romance before the next album that I love, How I'm Feeling Right Now, the one she released in 2020. And so she didn't play any songs from True Romance, so I was disappointed by that. And like I went with my sister, and at that point in time, she was a bigger Charli fan than me because she loves the stuff in between True Romance and 2020. Which I feel like, it's like the Vroom Vroom stuff, Pop 2, etc. So I liked some of those songs at the time, but like nowhere near as much as I love True Romance or how much I love her last 3 albums, Brat, Crash, and How I'm Feeling Right Now. So I was somewhat disappointed by that, but like Charli put on such an entertaining performance that I still really liked it. I just think that like that's such an interesting document of like where Charli was right then and where I was right then, and like we were kind of in different places. And I think that like since then I've come to appreciate the music in that period a lot more, especially the stuff where she worked with Sophie. Because I think I got more into Sophie, and then of course when Sophie died, it created a whole new meaning. So it's interesting with True Romance because it's her first album, and she had some like hits with Iggy and Icona Pop, but this is an album that I think because it didn't get played at all at that Pitchfork performance, it almost felt at the time like she was treating it the same way she's treating her Myspace albums. Like she's not performing anything from them, and so it's almost like you feel like you're being hurt by the artists that you love. You're like, oh, you're not playing the songs that I like. But now it's like, okay, Charli.
It's because they're weak. They're weak songs.
Here we go.
Like, I mean, I'm not gonna jump into some sort of like diatribe here, but it's a weak album, especially compared to like where she is now as an artist.
Okay, here's what I'll say. Brat is a better album than this. She's gotten to be such a better lyricist. I love this album. I don't think it's weak at all.
I wanted put some stuff down. Stop giving me the top level. Put some stuff down. Tell me, what do you actually like about it?
Okay.
Is there a highlights? Do you like a specific song that just makes you shake, makes you quake?
For me, it's about the entire album. It's not even about songs because I would always just press play. I wouldn't even look at what song is playing. So to me, it's like the entire experience. But I will say, Nuclear Seasons, I think I probably have a somewhat stronger connection to that because it's the very first song. And it's kind of like it just sets me in the right mood. This is an album I would play. Like, I would instantly feel happier listening to this album. And so
which is interesting because the song starts with an echoey, haunted, ghoulish. Oh,
yeah, I love the beginning of Nuclear Seasons. I love how it feels like like an intro track at the beginning, and then it just like transitions into something else. Like that is something I love so much. And yeah, I think it's like even though, as AP had pointed out to me, like these are dark songs. There is a lot of violence reference in these. It's like 10 years ago, Marcy did not care. She just enjoyed
because she was violent. I must say,
she just enjoyed.
I knew her
music.
back then.
And I think that's the thing about pop music is that like you can enjoy it on the level of like you're not even really paying that much attention to the lyrics or what they mean.
And let's pay some attention to Nuclear Season. And I think it's a great start of the album because it's electronic music, but it's very dark. It's gloomy. It has a little. It's like a font that's like a serif font that's like purple with black outlines, but it has like sparkly dots, like a GIF. Like that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I think for me, when you start playing this song, it instantly like puts me in a better mood. It instantly makes me like kind of want to dance, even though it's not like what I would call a dancey song.
So this isn't dark to you at all?
No.
It's. I mean, by dark, I don't mean like negative. I mean like a gothic feel, like an emo or like a sort of more of that less like if Taylor Swift is way on one side with her airy, fun, light but emotional sound, I feel like this is on the other side.
For me, not at all. Well, I would even say a lot of Taylor stuff to me is like more depressing than this. Like, but yeah, I would say I would probably put this closer to like 1989 than I would put it to like Folklore in terms of like emotions that it creates in me.
Because this is pop. This is a pop album.
Yeah, and I think like pop songs can be dark, but they're not gonna like make me feel depressed or anything like that.
Like I think this could be played at a dungeon with Wi-Fi reception.
Yeah, but like I don't even, that doesn't even seem like, I guess like technically that's like quote unquote dark, but to me like, well, when you say dungeon, I'm thinking of like a sex dungeon. Is that what you're thinking about?
Well, that's just because you're horny.
Or you're thinking about like
I'm thinking of cobblestone goblins. I'm thinking of a skeleton with a sword and maybe
that
like
still
a
sounds
hat.
like a party to me though. Like
that's because you're a freak.
Well, this Doveweather is canonically pro freak, so
it is true.
Yeah, I think I'm doing good there. But yeah, you know, I love the little intro you get at the beginning, and I love the way it transitions and the pop, pop, pop. Like, I love all of it. Like, I think this is like the perfect start to an album, and it's a perfect start to what we kind of consider to be Charli's first album, because I mean, you know, I do get upset that she doesn't play any songs from this in 2019 at Pitchfork, but the thing is, like, at least this is included in her Wikipedia page. It's included on her Spotify. Although, okay, you know, I have something to say. If they are going to call Brat Summer over, can we get the original album covers back? I fucking miss them. Instead, we get just True Romance, white text on a purple background.
You know, and the original is such an early 2010s vibe.
Yeah, definitely.
All of this like gossamer gradients over this very big hair that she has in that album.
Yeah, this reminds me that I think I got like a Charli XCX wig a few years ago, and I just like did not like the way it looked on me. But yeah, like to me, this album, I love the way it starts, and then after that, so we're not going to talk about every single song in here. So I'm going to skip to a song that I know that AP likes a lot. So Grins, I know this is one of your favorite songs, AP. Tell me
I would say it's
it.
my favorite song of the album. So I am a song guy. I'm a song guy over an album. Mainly because the way that I like to listen to music that I keep in my playlist and I like kind of connect with overall is that I want to like, one of the things that I do with music is that I offload memories and thoughts and emotions onto it. I think a lot of people do this.
Yeah.
But I kind of like to do that as my way of journaling. Like if I would put on a song, I could tell you like what things I associate with. And this song, to me, is the best candidate for something like that. Because I wouldn't dance to this. I also wouldn't put this on in the background to like enjoy or like make a vibe. I just like it. It's just a more fun song. I like the use of the ghoulish voice of Nuclear Season, bringing it back here. I think the way that the instrumentals like continue to build throughout the song, I really like that. I one of the things that I love about Charli XCX is that her music is so sonically complex, and especially in Brat. Like you could see it everywhere. She brings in so many different instruments and motifs that I really like. In Grins, to me, feels like the prototypical version of what I really like about Brat, both the instrumentals and the lyricism in it. Because it's such a like moody and gothy feel to the lyrics. Like one of them is one of this: my eyes are blinded by your stars. My blood is blushing so red. It's just moody. It's very gothic. And I think not in a negative way, but it feels very primordial. It feels very, I am a young adult dealing with my emotions for not the first time, but for like I'm digging into the black pitch well that is the emotions of a young adult or a teenager. And I think the lyrics, along with the larger moody atmosphere, is really there. And I think Grins is the perfect exemplar of the Grins is the microcosm to the macrocosm of true romance.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Grins is a song I like a lot too. I think any song where like she's singing in multiple voices, like that's gonna get me. Like the oh my god, I love that. And yeah, I like how you're connecting this to Brat, because I think the thing about this album is that without this, there's no Brat. And I think it's important that we look back and we don't just erase everything that came before. Like for instance, let's say with Dove Weather, 5 years from now, when we have like Sam Reich on our podcast,
yeah,
like people are going to be like, oh yeah, do you remember when they talked about true romance? Yeah, it wasn't as good as the episodes they do now, but you got to remember that, because if it wasn't for the true romance episode, they never would have gotten Sam Reich on their podcast.
I mean, that's kind of how I feel about our stuff now. Our first episode, like I heard it a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, bro, what is you doing? Talk a little faster, rapido.
Yeah, everyone's got to start somewhere. But I mean, even Charli, she is starting, in my opinion, on a much higher level than a lot of other people are. And I think Grins is a great example of this, where there's definitely lyrics in this album, maybe even songs, which we'll get to, that like are a little bit, I wouldn't want to present those to someone if I was trying to get them into Charli. But I think Charli was more fully formed than a lot of people give her credit for.
By the time she was releasing this, she would have been making music for almost 6 years.
Yeah.
So she definitely has one love, and that is music. And
partying. I would say partying too.
She's after my own heart.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, is that Charli has gotten critical acclaim essentially since she started, but I think there definitely have been circles that have doubted her. I'm not going to name names, but there is a podcast I listen to that I feel like has been
beef. First podcast beef.
Yeah, podcast beef.
Some dorks.
Yeah, there are
some music dorks.
There are some music dorks who, like, they're like, oh, everyone always says Charli is the future of music. Well, why is that future never coming? And then here we are. It has come, and now like they're just like, ugh,
and they're eating crow.
Well, that's the thing, is that of course they're being like annoying men. They're being like, oh, everyone's talking about Brat too much.
Oh, so now we know they're men and they talk about music.
Yeah.
That whittles it down to only a handful of people.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's part of why I may be a little bit extra defensive of true romance, where like, yeah, like, I think I am kind of listening to this album through, I feel like, slightly different ears than I have in the past, hearing AP's opinions about it,
A better man. I'm going to say it.
Like, the next song we're going to talk about is maybe the low point of the album, Cloud Aura.
Very funny. Very funny in retrospect. First of all, like, Charli, like, flirts, and I think she takes some inspiration from rap. But like, this is the only like real rap song of this album, and it does not hit.
Yeah, I will say, if I'm just listening to this album and not paying attention, I will enjoy this song, but I would never want to just listen to this song by itself. And the Brooke Candy, it was interesting because I looked back at like the Pitchfork review, and even the Pitchfork review was like, yeah, this Brooke Candy verse came from a different song. It sucked then and it sucks now.
I read a couple of reviews where people are like, yeah, and the Cloud Aura stands out as a bop. And I'm like, the fuck you say? Let me your music reviewer badge and gun, please.
Listen, I do hope there are some Cloud Aura defenders in the chat. Yeah. Give us a 5-star review, but then just tell us, oh, I disagree about Cloud Aura.
It's an absolutely low point in the album. And especially like with some lines of that like just talk about like Ivana and Donald Trump.
Oh yeah, and there's the line about Chris Brown. Yeah, that is.
And even Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde being a little more mythical of figures, but I'm like, you're just like talking about some of the shittiest people around.
Yeah, I think Charli has gotten more adept at kind of reading the room than she was in this song. But yeah, I mean, we love growth. Like, hey, we can acknowledge that this is a really fun album, and also not all of it holds up to 2024.
I think you're speaking to yourself.
I know. I do like to speak to myself
because I walked in the door that way. But there's another low point here. And that is from the song What I Like. I'd rather hear a donkey neigh.
This shit is kind of gangsta. That is the line. I am quoting it verbatim.
She's not cool enough. I'm sorry. Like, it's difficult for like a British person to sound cool already. But like, this like middle class 20-year-old girl from England cannot make the lyric "this shit kinda gangsta" sound good.
I agree. I mean, it is interesting because there is a Sam Rice connection here where on one of the episodes of Game Changers, which, by the way, the reason why we're talking about Sam Rice is because I'm obsessed with Game Changer. So there you go.
She's fixated.
I am fixated.
Hyper? Maybe. Hypo? Maybe.
Sam Rice did say gangster, like, in an episode of Game Changer, like after like it was his reaction to like one of the contestants doing something really cool. And I was like, interesting. But like I think it's the type of thing where like because Sam Rice is like a millionaire and like because people make fun of him
and the way he dresses and the way he speaks. It's just I'm not even a fan of this guy.
Look, I will say for Game Changer, like Sam Rice is only part of the equation. Like the real reason why most people watch is because of all the zany things that the behind the scenes people do and the amazingly funny comedians and writers that are the contestants.
And I just don't watch.
And you just don't watch, and that is your loss.
She can't pull it off.
She can't.
And like I feel like even now, if she would try to like do this line, I would still be like, what the fuck are you doing? You can't, like, it's not, I don't believe you.
Although I will say, I feel like Charli has almost reached a place where people can say, what the fuck are you doing? And then the next day, like, she'll put out a bop and then people won't care anymore.
Yeah. I'm talking about, like, believability.
Definitely.
Like, I believe she is bumping that. I really do. I've seen videos of her doing it. So, like, I can see that. I just can't. I can't see this shit being kind of gangsta.
Yeah. Well, we kind of hit the low points. Let's hit one more high point. Black Roses. So AP, I know that you're a particular fan of this song. Tell me why.
So my real interpretation of this is gothic pop. A lot of people wanted at the time. A lot of reviews made analogies to Grimes, who is also a very like dark sounding pop. But I think the way that Charli's doing it is different here, because what she's going for is definitely a feeling, a kind of like you. It's not a focus on themes or concepts. It's more like a hug, it's a feeling. And I think some of the lyrics here fit that well with the line "sat in the garden of sin like an angel with her dirty wings, tinted by taste of the soul." Incredibly cringy lines, especially coming from me. But her delivery here feels good. It once again, it feels like a moody teen giving their actual sincere feelings, and that's what I admire most in art: sincerity. And I really like Black Roses because of that. It just feels real to her.
Yeah, I like that. while I was listening to this song just now, it almost makes me think about how, actually, it does make me think about how Black Roses in 2013, Pink Diamond in 2020, which is another song from the album that she put out during the pandemic. Um, Pink Diamond is one of my favorite Charli songs. That's like the first song to that album. I think it sets the mood so well. And I love to dance to that song in the shower. Black Roses, fun to like, shake your ass to a little bit, but like it's not the type of song that like you're gonna want to be like, DJ play Black Roses. And I think the AP hits on something here with the way that like you can definitely see a seed of Charli's like really big bangers in this song. And I love that it has a lot of the darkness that AP was talking about earlier. But like Black Roses, I don't know. It's just a really fun song for me.
It's fun. It's poppy. It's good. It doesn't make you feel bad.
Uh-huh.
I would say that like this kind of doesn't feel like a love song to me. Maybe because I just can't connect with it at my current moment. I kind of get this feeling of like coming back from a social event, maybe a date, and you're like in your bed. It's 2 a.m. and maybe you throw this on because the night didn't really go the way you wanted it, and you kind of just like need to.
Black Roses, I didn't get laid tonight, that kind of thing. So we've kind of talked about a few of the songs now, and
the highs and the lows.
Yeah, and I want to loop back to some more big picture thoughts, because when we were talking about this previously, you were telling me about some of the emotions you were feeling listening to this album and what it made you think about.
Yeah, so like coming to this from a little bit of an outsider, as I was listening to this, and then also when I was reading this, I have to I really come out of this with an understanding that this album is filled with violence in a way that I don't really like connecting with. And like, so reading this, some of the words that pop up a lot are, one of them is poison. And she uses poison a lot to describe both her love for somebody else and the love that she gives as well. And to me, that I don't know, just feels odd, feels weird. Another word that pops up a bunch is falling. Things are constantly falling in this album. Both her thoughts, concepts, all of these different things. Falling is there, and death and dying. I have this idea that the first song, Nuclear Seasons, can be read as a little bit of a midsummer style death by carbon monoxide poisoning because you left your car on type thing. And I do not like it. I generally, this album emotionally, I don't really want it anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think because I have listened to this album over 100 times without really thinking too much about the lyrics, even after knowing, like, even after you told me this and even after I was looking at the lyrics, I feel like my past with the album outweighs any feelings that I get from like looking at the lyrics. So I think I don't have the same reaction as you do, but it's really interesting for me to hear about that. And I think, from what I know, I think a lot of that is because there's a lot of violence in the world right now. And I know that like that's having an emotional effect on you.
Yeah.
So I can definitely understand like not wanting to engage, especially because for me, this album, it is kind of an escapism. It is kind of a way to turn off my brain to a certain extent. And if the main association you have with this is the violence, it's much harder to do that.
In part of, like, she has a whole song about telling someone stay away. Like, that to me just cosmically feels dark.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to compare this to Muna, who also has a song called "Stay Away." But for me, I like that song a lot more, partially because I have like a more emotional connection to it. Because as lesbians, like, we connect to the idea of, like, sometimes we gotta stay away. Like, the whole thing about, like, having this emotional connection to another lesbian, but you're like, the healthiest thing for me is I need to stay away. I do not have the same connection to the Charli "Stay Away" song. Like, and I did a little research on Charli's romantic life. I don't want to get too much into it because
it's not that interesting.
Yeah,
like, okay,
she dated
a couple of people.
Music
wow,
video, like, director. Like, that's who she was dating during this. She broke up, or they broke up, like, not long after this album came out. That guy, he directed like 5 different music videos from this album, I think. And she started dating someone else a year later. So a lot of the hints of toxicity that are in these lyrics, they may be about that relationship. Like, she could also be writing, like, past experiences, especially because, like, a lot of these songs, she didn't necessarily write in 2013, 2012. Like, a lot of them came out previously because, like, she just wanted to put all of her songs that she felt good about in this album that came out in 2013. So who knows? Maybe the lyrics are about some guy that we've never heard of.
But ultimately, it really, like, there is an atmosphere that she's trying to create, and she creates it. At least in my perspective, she creates it. I'm not a lesbian. So, like, and neither is Charli.
True. Famously.
So I'm also not a heterosexual, but I know the type. And like, looking at this, there is just a general darkness throughout it. And I think Charli, and especially in this album, compared to some of the older, other newer ones that she's released, is that she's using negativity or darkness or this sense of forlornness to circle around to say I love someone. So she's like using the lens of a moody atmosphere to say I love someone.
Yeah.
And I can relate to that. I think that's normal also to relate to this. Like, I think it's a common thing. But I was trying to think of other songs like that. And one of the ones that jumped out to me immediately was Kiss with a Fist by Florence and the Machine. And that is a song where it's absolutely about some sort of abuse or violence happening. But the difference is that it's effectively a fun poppy rock song versus what this album is, which is an atmospheric electronically pop album. And I even thought about some other ones. Like, I went into the genre of like punk music to be like, okay, well, there's got to be some people using this like roundabout way to say I love you. And I actually could not think of one. So to me, this is a very heavy emotional album. The way that I think the unalloyed emotions of a young adult / teenager want to bear and can express. But me as a full-grown man, adult, this is weirdly heavy on me, and I don't really want to listen to this album anymore. And that's even before the general larger negativity happening on Earth with the constant murder of Palestinians and homeless people and black people here in the United States. Like, I don't want to hear about this young woman. This young woman just saying she loves someone through negativity. I don't want to.
You know, it is interesting because I'm not familiar with that Florence and the Machine song, but yeah, I think there definitely is like this long history of taking basically kind of camouflaging darker. What you know, like let's think about "Toxic," a song that we have performed together on stage.
And burlesque.
There definitely is this history of like, you know, you can draw a line from Toxic to the Poison that Charli talks about. And to me, like listening to those never stresses me out. But I think I actually
And Toxic is like an upbeat poppy song though.
Definitely. I like this kind of investigation about how our brains work. Like, you know, in the past we talked about like, oh, Marcy, I am neurodivergent, while AP isn't. Well, I think
I'm neurochill,
sure, whatever. Like, the way that AP's brain interacts with music is so different than mine, and I find that fascinating, and I love it. Like, there's definitely like music that I wouldn't want to listen to because of like emotional reasons, but almost never pop. Like it's really hard for me to think about a pop song that I won't want to listen to because it will depress me. So while it's not like a feeling I'm familiar with. I love hearing about it.
Yeah, and it's not that I don't like music that might deal with negative or horrible themes, or that they're even sung in a more somber way. Like, I'm a Mexican. I love corridos. I love cumbias that are about some of the most fucked up shit you can think of. Like, I even think about like Peso Pluma in 2024 and like Gavilan 2, the album. A lot of dark themes in it. Some of them poppy, some of them more rap, some of them more of that corridos tumbados type shit. But just the formulation of Charli XCX's True Romance, it's kind of like it's kind of like sand in my shoe. I just don't want it there.
Yeah. Like, I think that, like, for instance, hip hop is a genre that deals with like heavy topics a lot when compared to like pop. Like, so, you know, like for instance, you're referencing like the death of the murder of like black people that happens in America, and that's something that like hip hop definitely covers. And so, like, in a sense, the Charli music is less heavy as like a lot of more political music, but at the same time, it sounds like you're not really getting much value out of listening to something that is toxic. While there can be heavier music that has like more of a political message that you agree with,
or at least it connects with reality, like the shared reality of us all. This is very much about the internal reality of both Charli and her partner, or whoever this might be about. And like, that's stepping into a specific time and place. So yeah, it's a little more, it connects differently than just a more of a collective reality focused song. Yeah, like anything that Kendrick Lamar might have released, where it is about definitely real and heavy topics. But there are also like some fun shit in there. There's also like, you know, like he makes great music of a wide different variety. And I never, other than Meet the Grams, there isn't, and a couple others, but are not. I'm okay with playing at any time.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, like Damn, when that album came out, I was like listening to that on repeat. And at the same time, like, I mean, that album like literally starts with like newscasters like essentially reacting like to Kendrick's lyrics and like being like, "Oh, this is too much for me."
Yeah, Fox News anchor. I think it was Brian Kilme. I think, and yeah, it's an interesting line.
Yeah.
But even when I think about a band that I really like, Idols.
Oh, here we go. Here we fucking go.
Who I will be
God
seeing
damn it.
soon, and I am excited.
I will be throwing tomatoes at the stage.
They make music about a whole bunch of different things.
Joy as an act of resistance.
Yeah. You know who said that? Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris and Idols. I respect you equally.
And like but another like act that I feel like connects in with heavy topics, but in a way that I really want to more, is somebody else we talked about, Reverend Michael Christian Hader, in her
Saved,
in her album Saved, like that. Incredibly odd, difficult music, but I would go back to the song Indumia, which starts with the line, "Am I born to die?" I almost went back to that song regularly to kind of give me a palate cleanser.
So it sounds like to me that it's not really just the violence. It's that it's almost like it feels like you're chugging like Kool-Aid.
I'm chugging teenage angst.
Yeah,
when I'm
like,
listening.
I don't want more of this. But so my question is, have there been like teenage angsty? Because I mean, Olivia Rodrigo, why did that work for you? Why was that something that you could listen to over and over again, but not this?
I think it's
having that feeling.
Well, or maybe I will like Olivia Rodrigo, especially her first album more than her second. I liked it because it is undeniably fun. It's a poppy, fun like music, but like I don't want to do the Grimes comparison to Charli, especially at the time in 2014, because it was overdone. But like I don't like Grimes either because to me it's very much of the same like ilk. They successfully create an atmosphere that does not vibe with me.
See, I do like a lot of Grimes' earlier albums, so it makes sense that if you wouldn't like Grimes, that maybe you wouldn't like Charli, even though there are like significant differences between the two of them. But yeah, first of all, I have to say AP's slander of Olivia Rodrigo's second album. We will not stand for that.
I just said I liked the first one more.
Yeah, but I remember that. I remember our discussion. I mean, it makes sense because, like, I think the first album hit for you in a way that maybe you weren't expecting, and then the second album, I think it didn't have the same effect on you. And I remember the year that came out, like, talking with other people about how much I liked that album, and then I talked to you about that. You're like, there's some good songs, I guess, that kind of thing.
Look, Olivia has a degree in boponomics, and I am her student. And so that's generally how I feel about this. It succeeds.
Yeah.
Charli XCX succeeds in bringing the young adult angst, and you can keep it away from me. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah, I will be continuing to listen to this album and the 3 other Charli XCX albums I love. I will say, I think I do need to give the middle ages, I'll say, of Charli's career another chance. I think that now that I'm like fully brat pilled, I think listening to her previous albums, I think will potentially hit more for me. Like, because I think Vroom Vroom, I have come to like that song a lot more, I would say, over the last like few years. And I think that the same thing can happen for the rest of her albums too. So I'm excited.
It does feel like you know, it does feel like overall Charli XCX to you, and I think this is the divergence in between us, is that you habituate to music. It effectively stops being a piece of art that stands alone and says something, and it becomes it becomes the the wallpaper of your existence, of your connection to the moment that you're in right now.
Yeah, I think that was definitely true pre-2021. I think that since then, I have gotten more emotional connections with music. Olivia Rodrigo, Muna, Boy Genius, etc. But that's the interesting thing, is that now I can kind of maybe connect to some music in a way that maybe I hadn't before. I think because True Romance, I already have such a positive experience based on pre-2021 Marcy. It's hard to create new connections with that music, but I think that like with Sucker or Pop 2, I potentially could. So that may be a fun experiment that I do in the next few months or so.
Yeah. And I bring that up because to me, I did have a Brat Summer. I did a fuck ton of things. And I was definitely bumping that musically.
Yeah.
And like, and I think I will always remember this time in 2024 through the lens of Brat, through Charli, and actually also Muna, because I've also been chaotic.
Woo! That's fucking right. The gays won.
But you see how she doesn't support me in Idols?
Hey, I
all
support...
because the same people that have been shitting on Charli XCX.
Wait a minute.
She
That's
takes
not the only reason.
their word for what Idols is like. And all I know is that I don't know who these two men she listens to are, but I know she does not listen to me, y'all.
Idols, I just don't like the sound. The sound is not good. Listen, wait a minute. Why do you go so hard for these like white guys who think that like their music, that's the joy and the resistance that we're gonna need for this revolution?
You literally cannot put that on me. If do you listen to any Spanish language music? You can't. Sí. Imagine if I was just like, ¿y por qué piensas que ¿por qué piensas de Jimena Sariñana eres la mejor representación de la nueva formación de feminista de México? Porque blah blah. Like no, do not put that on. I never said that. I never said Idols is a soundtrack to the revolution. I used to think that was Run the Jewels, but that went way out.
What I'm saying is Idols thinks that they are like
they don't.
They're making the album title "Joy is an Act of Resistance."
That's just a phrase. That's just a phrase.
And they're putting that. They're stapling that phrase on their music. Yeah.
Is Charli XCX sucker? Is she a sucker?
But being a sucker isn't like a big political statement. Joy as an act of resistance is.
Then why are you one?
I will say, I will look forward to the day when I can respond to AP in Spanish as quickly as him. My Duolingo skills aren't quite there yet. I know that, he was throwing some, you think that Ariana Grande, that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't trust my Spanish skills enough yet to like put them on a podcast, because I know that like no matter what, I'm gonna seem like it will be used to make fun of me. So that's where I'm at right now, is that my anxiety.
You think so low of me. I make fun of you out of love in literally everything you do.
Exactly. But for whatever reason, being made fun of like for my Spanish is going to be worse than anything else. So, yeah, I need to like start doing the vocal exercises in Duolingo more often because I feel like I've been more focused on just like the friend quests and the monthly quests and all that kind of stuff. So the more social aspects, I guess.
But the moment there's a Latina she likes, she's gonna be
I'm
arriba.
I'm not responding to this. Oh, okay. We gotta get.
She'll be over here like para bailar la bamba.
I am not. You know what? Okay. So
I love Selena.
We've gone so chaotic over here. I'm. You know what? I'm glad that like the next thing we're going to be talking about is going to be like more connected to AP's Latin heritage.
Still in the bad bitch category.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. And yeah, you know what? I'm gonna let you cut this out if you want to, but I'm gonna give a little teaser that like I'm gonna be reading a book in English. AP is gonna be reading a book in Spanish, and that is like an amazing concept. So I can't wait to see how that all plays out.
And let's just say, yo sigo siendo el rey y ella sigue siendo la reina. Of different kingdoms. We're not married.
Yeah.
And we'll never will be.
That is correct. Yeah.
Unless for tax
We're
reasons.
also anti-monarchy, so I don't know how to feel about us being the king of the
It's real muddled.
Yeah.
But you know what's not muddled? The love we have for Charli XCX. Thank you so much for listening, y'all. You can follow us on
Instagram.
You can watch us on
YouTube.
And you can always be well.
Yeah, give us 5 stars and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Adios.